Okay folks, we're just about to go through the second topic in the neurobiology section of the very end of the Higher Human course. We're looking at the structure of the brain today, specifically the structure of the cerebral cortex. Now this is one of 3 videos which are all covered by one homework exercise, which I hope to post up today. This is the Thursday just before the Easter holidays, and there is only one other homework exercise to do after that, so there's really only 2 left to do. That is your task over the Easter holidays, to have the course completed in the sense of it being completed online by the end of the Easter holidays. Okay, so this is, as I say, the second of the neurobiology topics. There are 3 topics that go into the first homework, so make sure you've watched the one before this on the structure of neural pathways, and this one, which is about the structure of the cerebral cortex, and the third one, which is about memory, before you actually embark on doing that first of the 2 homeworks. Okay, right. This is very short. There's not an awful lot of information in it, but there's a couple of terms that I need to make sure that you're quite clear on. This here is a kind of basic structure of the brain, as you may remember it from National 5. You'll hopefully remember that's where your medulla is, in the middle there. The cerebellum, just at the back there, controls muscular coordination and balance, remember. We already kind of know what the medulla does. We've talked in quite a lot of depth about the sympathetic, parasympathetic systems, etc. So you should be quite comfortable with that. This is what we call the cerebrum, which is involved in conscious thought, intelligence, memory, things like that. We now call that the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex is the new phrase we use for that one. So what I've shown here is a much larger version of that structure. The cerebral cortex has 2 sides to it. Your brain is effectively split in 2. You have a left side and a right side. They're called hemispheres. So this splitting is quite important to understand. And to understand that, this is something you might already know, it's kind of one of these kind of general knowledge things, but the right side of your brain, the right hemisphere, controls the left side of your body, and vice versa. The left hemisphere, the left side of your body, controls the right side of your body. So you have basically a crossover of signal. So if your right arm is moving, it's the left hemisphere that's controlling that. If your left arm is moving, it's the right hemisphere that's controlling that. And similarly, information from, for example, your right eye, your right ear, that's all being sent to the left hemisphere, and vice versa. Your left eye, your left ear, information is being sent to your right side of your the right hemisphere of the cerebral cortex. Okay, so just to recap what I said there, you should know the main structures of the brain: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the medulla. That's also the pituitary gland, which we've mentioned in some detail this year. What you need to know, though, is that we now talk about the cerebrum as being the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex is the entire kind of main sort of brain structure involved in conscious thought, and it has a left and right hemisphere. Now, in order for that system to work properly, the 2 sides of the brain have to be able to talk to each other. Your right side of the brain, your left side of the brain have to be able to communicate. There has to be signals to be sent from one hemisphere to the other. And in order for them to do that, you have a very large, very thick structure filled with neurons buzzing information between the 2 hemispheres. That structure there is called the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum. Now, something quite interesting happens in patients where, in some cases, this is split, right? So you actually have an operation where your corpus callosum is cut. Now, there's all sorts of different reasons for that. It can be a treatment for things like epilepsy, actually, but so it can result in you losing symptoms of epilepsy, but the main problem is now your left side of your brain doesn't know what the right side of the brain is doing, and vice versa. So let's imagine that you see something with your left eye. Your right brain is able to know that you've seen that, But if you haven't seen it with your right eye, then the left side of your brain doesn't know that that thing is there. So if you, let's say you cover one eye, everything I'm looking at now with my left eye, my right side of my right hemisphere is able to know is there, but the left side isn't getting any information at all from my eyes. Now what the current situation is, of course, I am not a split brain patient, so the information from my left eye goes to the right hemisphere and then through the corpus callosum to the left hemisphere. So that's fine. So all the parts of my brain know what I can see with this one eye. If I was a split brain patient, it would only be the right hemisphere of my brain that would have any information right now about what it can see. And that can have major implications because your left and your right hemisphere do slightly different things. One of them is more concerned with speech, one of them more concerned with movement. Okay? There are areas of the cerebral cortex involved in movement, so there are motor areas. There are also sensory areas as well. There are language processing areas. Now, you don't need to know necessarily where in the cerebral cortex you find it. There'll be different regions will be responsible for different parts of your conscious thought, but you do need to understand that there are different parts, right? You need to understand that there are different parts of the cerebral cortex that are involved in these different things, okay? And that's it. That is all that is in that topic. It's very, very, it's not particularly big in terms of information, in terms of stuff to remember, but there are new phrases, right? So bear in mind, we don't talk about the cerebrum anymore at a higher level, we talk about the cerebral cortex. We should also understand the cerebral cortex is made of the left and right hemisphere. The left hemisphere controls the right side of the body and receives signals from the right side of the body, and the right hemisphere controls basically vice versa, right? So if you're getting information from your left eye, it's going to your right hemisphere. If you're sending information to your left leg, it's from your right hemisphere, okay? And the way in which the two hemispheres exchange information is through this structure called the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum, which in most people is present and is not broken, but in split brain patients is broken, and that has implications on a person's ability for the two parts of the brain to communicate with one another. And bear in mind as well, we have different areas such as motor areas, sensory areas, bits for memory, bits for language, and different parts of the cerebral cortex are responsible for these different things. You don't need to know where those regions are, you just need to know that those regions exist. And that is it. So without any further ado, I'm going to move on. I'm just about to record the third of the 3 videos for you, so I would suggest you want to watch this one and then probably immediately move on to watch the next one, because this isn't a particularly long video. Cheers.